How is it going, everybody? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you to episode 24 of The Way of the Wolf. So today we are going to be talking about the problem. The problem isn't the problem. The problem is your reaction to the problem. What does that mean to you? Whenever I say that, it's definitely a mouthful to have all those problems in two little sentences like that. But next time you run into an issue or have a problem that's frustrating and you're kind of beating your head against a wall, I want you to do a few things. First, I want you to think about, is it really as bad as you're making it out to be? Or is this just something that you didn't want to deal with or don't want to mess with at all? Just something that wasn't planned for. So as we progress in life and our careers, you're going to be faced with problems day in, day out, year after year. I mean, that's just kind of part of the thing. That's just something that happens in life. And if we focus on our careers and jobs, especially for those of you in leadership positions, it is your job to solve problems. You know what? I'll actually go so far as to say is any position that you fill or any job that you have, your job, part of it, needs to be solving problems. And this can be very frustrating and overwhelming, especially if you feel like there's just an avalanche of problem after problem after problem. It starts compounding and becoming increasingly difficult for you to detach and take a logical approach to how do we solve each of these individual problems. Because we inevitably end up going to, well, the whole thing is screwed up. We just need to start over. Well, that's not very realistic. You can pivot, you can make adjustments, but flipping the table over and starting over, it's not always the best approach. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to move forward through problems that you end up dealing with. First and foremost, you've got to focus on the future and not the past. If you spend all of your time worried about and feeling frustrated with the person who caused the problem and then figuring out where to point the blame, it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to spin in circles being pissed off and frustrated, and you're not going to actually move forward at all or make any sort of progress in solving the problem. When you think about the future, getting a clear image of what success looks like is really the first step. Once you realize what success looks like, start moving in that direction. Stop dwelling on who caused it or why we're in this situation. Just start moving towards success. Focusing on the solution instead of the problem. Think about ideas and different paths that you might be able to take to come to some sort of a resolution. Again, stop rehashing the problem and frustration. Now, there's a time and a place for that where you want to vent, you want to get it off your chest, but once you've had that opportunity, start moving forward. Don't dwell on it. It's not good for your health. It's not good for the rest of the people on the team because it just drags them down into this dark place with you. Every time there is a challenge or a problem, there is some good that will come from it. I've spoken on previous episodes about when something bad happens, you need to have the mindset of, good, I've got the opportunity to get better. A gentleman by the name of Norman Vincent Peale, who is a big proponent of positive thinking, once said, whenever God wants to give us a gift, he wraps it in a problem. The bigger the gift you have coming, the bigger the problem you will receive. But the wonderful thing is that if you look for the gift, you will always find it. So when you think about what gifts could come from solving problems, start thinking about the people involved, who you can help along the way, what relationships can be built or repaired by solving this problem. There are people that I have worked with in my career that, I have nothing positive to say about. Anytime their name comes across my inbox, I just roll my eyes and think, okay, here we go. However, one of the things I have learned is the importance of helping those individuals. As a leader, that's what we do. It doesn't matter if you like them or not. Your role is to help each and every single person become the best version of themselves. Even if that person is a complete idiot, you have no clue why they exist at the organization unless they're a friend of a friend or a relative of a board member or whatever that situation may be. That's not your problem. That's out of your control. Help that person be successful. Because what will happen is that person that probably people know you don't like will at some point share feedback. Oh, well, Sean actually helped me through this. And that's going to send a very powerful message of, wow, this guy, in spite of really not liking this other person, helped him get something across the finish line. That's what leaders do. That's what team players do. Seek the lesson. There's always going to be some sort of a lesson that you can learn from a challenge or a problem that you encounter. Start thinking about, what is this trying to teach me? How can I learn from this? How can I prevent this from occurring again in the future? You have to have a positive mental attitude whenever it comes to solving problems, and just quite frankly in life and your career in general. Having a positive mental attitude is indispensable to success. Like, it is just, you have to be in that good place to achieve success in your life. If not, circle the drain, circle the drain, circle the drain. Not going to get anywhere. One thing I'll mention is, as we progress in our careers, the types of problems that you encounter and work through end up shifting. The problems that you start facing become more people-focused as opposed to a task or tangible item that's the issue. If you think about someone in a manufacturing plant, and there's some sort of an issue with parts not being assembled correctly, or maybe they weren't machined correctly, whatever that may be, solving a problem is really figuring out, hey, what's going on here? How do we get with the machine shop to prevent this from occurring in the future? Similar to on the IT side of the fence. If a server goes down, you've got to figure out how to get that thing back up and running as quickly as possible so that the business operations can continue. As you progress into more and more leadership roles, those types of problems, while they do still come up, they start to fade away, and your role transitions more into worrying about the morale of the team. What challenges are they facing? How can you help them become successful? So while you're still solving problems, they become people problems as opposed to item problems. That's a difficult transition for some people to make. A lot of times people don't really understand personality profiles or types, and I think that's really a prerequisite to being successful in a leadership role. You have to understand people. You have to understand what drives them. You have to be able to read them Something to keep in mind as you're progressing, especially those of you that have aspirations to be in a leadership type role or a coaching type role, you've got to learn to read people. All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk through a question that I've received from one of the listeners. How do I know when I've become the best version of myself? Quite frankly, you don't. I would like to think that nobody ever becomes the best version of themselves. This is an evolutionary process that takes time. If you think you've reached that best version of yourself, well, you're really more than likely going to become complacent, and complacency breeds mediocrity. I'm probably actually going to get that put on a shirt whenever I start getting some shirts made for the podcast. Have that on the back of it. Complacency breeds mediocrity. So, like I said, this is really an evolutionary process. Unless you are a shark and have kind of evolved over, 400 million, 420 million years or so. They've been kind of an apex predator. I need to watch Shark Week on Discovery. I know a little bit about them, but not much. So unless you are a shark and you've kind of reached that pinnacle of what you can achieve, which none of us listening to this are, you need to keep going. You need to keep that drive, that desire to figure out, how do I continue to be better? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to help? How can I make the biggest impact on as many lives as possible? So to circle back to the question, how do you know? Well, there is no zenith whenever it comes to becoming the best version of ourselves. Really, you never get there. And if you do, if you think that you're there, well, you're already on the downhill slide. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. In closing, I'm really excited about, I had a coaching call yesterday. It was with an individual that was the first truly 100% organic reach from my content that I've been creating, where someone reached out to me and asked to have a call to talk through some of the challenges that she was dealing with and working through. All of the people that I coach today are friends of friends or referrals or people that work at the same company as I do and things like that. So really excited about that. Very honored for someone to reach out to me in that way. We'll always make time, so please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or shoot me an email at sean@thewayofthewolf.com. Always happy to have those conversations. Also getting very close on getting the podcast studio here in the house finished up. I've got my table built. I've got my big-ass fan hung. And I still got a few things left to do. I've got to mount my wolf head logo. I've got to get some lighting done and some electrical outlets and a few little odds and ends. But really excited about that. Once I get it all finished up, I'll have a guest come on the show. And I think that's about it right now. So I want to thank you all for your time, and y'all have a good one.